Welcome to episode 26 of In the Abstract, the Lakeland Title podcast. I'm your host, Bryan Jeansonne, the founder and owner of Lakeland Title. And for this episode, we're going to talk about why people litter, how that impacts your community, and what you can do about it. And for that, we have a special guest, Susan Russell, the executive director of Keep Louisiana Beautiful, and she's going to tell us more about it. So I hope y'all enjoy this episode, and let's get into it. So thank you, Susan, so much for doing this for us. We're really glad to have you here. And I did a little introduction of you, but why don't you introduce yourself to everybody else? Tell us about yourself.
Sure. I'm Susan Russell. I'm executive director for Keep Louisiana Beautiful, and I've been working in this space for a number of years now. First at the local level with Keep Mandeville Beautiful and moving to the state position in 2014. And so my background is in nonprofit management and program development.
Okay. And the reason I wanted to bring you on is because litter is a big problem, I think, in Louisiana and definitely where I live in Baton Rouge. And so I just kind of wanted to bring you on to kind of discuss some of the topics surrounding litter. And so I wanted to start off with why do people litter?
Isn't that the $1,000,000 question, right?
Yeah. Mm.
It's for those of us who don't litter, it's beyond our comprehension, right? Of just tossing things out of a window, or walking down a street and just dropping something for someone else to take care of. I wish the issues surrounding it I wish they were simple, but unfortunately they very complex. There's multiple sources of litter, and I think there's multiple reasons why litter exists. There's unintentional littering, and then there's intentional littering. And so I think for the people who intentionally litter, I think that they don't care. They don't value and respect the environment or the community that they live in. I think that they oftentimes don't feel connected to the community, and that they are a part of that community, and part of that responsibility is to take care of the space where you live and work and play, that it's not someone else's job to pick up after you. And I think that a lot of just taking care of, whether that's your home or your playground at school or your workspace, your play space, a lot of it is how you're raised as well.
Okay. And how have you seen that litter impacts a community? What happens when a community has a lot of litter in it?
I often say that this is probably, I think this is one of the most impactful issues in Louisiana that probably gets the least amount of attention and funding. And it's only been just recently that it's getting more attention and more funding to solve the problems. It crosses all boundaries, right? And so it affects every part of Louisiana, whether you live in a rural area or in a larger city, whether you are high income, low income, Republican, Democrat. It makes no difference your age. It makes no difference of your gender, your political, slant. It affects us all. It affects the economy, tourism, the water quality, affects animals and marine life, the state's image. When we have people that come here and are just disgusted by what they see because they're, live in a state that does a much better job in taking care of and maintaining their cities. So it's a black eye for every single in every single area. It also can be very expensive for municipalities and for parishes to maintain their public spaces. If we're paying city employees and parish employees to literally pick up after others, somebody's paying for that, and it's you, it's me, and it's all taxpayers. So it impacts everything.
Okay. And it would seem like it would also impact property values. You'd think maybe that places that are cleaner and have less litter would have higher real estate values. Has that been your experience?
Well, there are studies out there that I've read that make that connection. And it's really part of the overall picture. So I think litter is a piece of it, but I often tell people if you close your eyes, right, and open them back up again, and if every piece of litter was removed from Louisiana, what would we look like? What would your neighborhood, your community, your city, your parish look like? Would it be beautiful? And oftentimes the answer is it would look better, but not beautiful. And why is that? Because it is more than just litter that breaks down the appearance of a community. And that appearance of a community is so very important to our property values, right? It's that quality, because it speaks to the quality of life. And so it's everything. It's grass being mowed and edged, and fences being repaired, and street signs that are, not knocked down, straightened up, and it's park benches, and it's the complete package of taking care of our public spaces, our roadways, the maintenance, all of that. And so there is absolutely a connection between the appearance of your community, quality of life. It shows that people care. It shows that people are invested. It shows that, when there's areas with high litter, what is that communicating? It's communicating the very opposite, right? It communicates that no one's watching, that nobody cares, that there's no accountability, that there's low expectation. And then littered areas become the norm. Roadways with high grass and no edging and car parts on the side of the roadways, that becomes just commonplace. It becomes the norm, and we become blind to all of it. And that is unfortunately where we are in Louisiana. And that's one of the reasons why I think it's so hard to move the needle, is that not everyone is aware of it. They see it so often, every day, every day, every day. It just becomes part of their norm.
And do you think the problem's gotten better or worse over the years?
I'd like to think that it's gotten better. But in all honesty, it's, our state has gone through a tremendous amount over the last couple of years, between hurricanes and tornadoes and flooding. And every time there's a natural disaster, and that, don't get me wrong, that's not the main culprit, but we have to be honest and realize that compounds an already bad problem, right? We have additional trucks on the road that are hauling people's, stuff out of their homes, and things flying out of the truck beds. We have people who literally have to, gut their homes and put it on the curb, and wind and rain comes and it floats down or is blown down the street. We have, trucks rebuilding, construction, and things flying out. So that is a part of the problem. I know that the work that we do here, we try to provide support to local communities through education, through grant funding, through training, our network of community affiliates, our network of university affiliates, and we are seeing more and more people who are engaged at the local level than ever before. So that is reassuring. People who want to see change, who want better than what they currently have. And for many of them, they're not sure where to turn, and there's no funding available. And sometimes, these things do cost money, unfortunately. Until we get people to change their behavior, we have to educate them, we have to enforce the litter laws, and we have to train our elected officials and our stakeholders on the importance of clean communities, of maintenance, on litter prevention tactics, on doing better with stormwater management. All of those things need to take place, because it's not just government's responsibility. This will never change on the backs of volunteers picking up litter. And it's all of us. Every person who lives in Louisiana has a role and a responsibility. So does local government, so does state government, so does businesses, and so does our schools and our formal and non-formal educators. It's an opportunity to change that culture, by reaching our young people and educating them. And we have programs that are available free of charge for any formal and non-formal educator. And there's also that role and responsibility of the enforcement community, because when people don't do the right thing, when we see piles of waste tires and dumping, illegal dumping, we have to be able to enforce the litter laws and the illegal dumping laws, because some people aren't going to change until they get citations. And so it's everybody saying, I'm going to do my part, my role, my responsibility coming together. And when we do that, that's when real change will be seen.
Okay. And yeah, you mentioned old tires. Is that a particular problem in Louisiana for us?
It is a problem in Louisiana, and actually it's a problem in all states. So, we're not unique to that. But it's a problem all over Louisiana.
And it causes the mosquito problem to get worse.
Causes mosquito problem. They catch on fire. You can't put them out. It's the list goes on and on with the problems with waste tire dumping.
Would you call that the worst type of litter, or is there one that's worse than that?
No, I mean, not necessarily. I think that I don't know that there's one that's worse than another. They're all very harmful in different ways. You could say plastics, single-use plastics are a problem because it contributes to, the problems with micro and macro, plastics. You can say that cigarette butts are a problem because, they are lightweight and they float and enter into the bayous, and, the birds eat them. I mean, they all are bad, and they just all have a little bit different of a story. I was doing actually, when I was driving home yesterday from work, my side street leading into my neighborhood, had quite a bit of litter on it. And I think it was because of the rainfall. We often, after rainfall, see an increase in litter. And so me and my daughter grabbed our grabbers and bag, and we went a short stretch and had 2 full bags, within the matter of literally 15 minutes. And I can tell you the most items that we picked up were styrofoam cups that came from like a convenience store, gas station, fast food items, and empty liquor bottles. And so it's really, and those are items that more likely than not were tossed out of a window. When we look at interstate litter, more likely than not, things are coming from the backs of truck beds. They're coming from loads that are not secured. When you drive down the interstate and there's a dresser or mattress on the side of the road, or a whole bag of trash, or an ice chest, when you're swerving around to try to avoid the ladder that's in the middle of the road, or you see the insulation that's, spewed across, those things are not coming from a car window. That's coming from a truck. So even if we just enforce that law, that things needed to be secured and covered, we would make huge strides.
Interesting. I also wanted to ask you if you heard of this study that many years ago, Dr. Robert Cialdini over at Arizona State University did, that said he had found that in places where there is a lot of litter, it makes people think it's okay to litter, and then therefore they will litter more, and vice versa. Yeah. When there's not a lot of litter around, that people feel like, oh, I shouldn't litter because the place is so well kept. Do you agree with that?
Litter begets litter, absolutely. And so it goes back to what I was saying. When areas are littered every day, and it becomes commonplace, it becomes the norm. So it's not, no one really notices it anymore, right? And it communicates that no one's watching, so I might as well litter. No one's going to tell me anything. No one apparently cares. There's no investment here. There's no ownership, no accountability. All of those messages are being communicated when you come into a community that is highly littered. And it damages that community greatly. And so in areas that are littered, it attracts additional litter. That's one of the reasons why we, in fact, right now spent the day looking at grant applications. We just closed our application period, and we received 98 trash receptacle grant applications. And so we're getting ready to spend about $650,000 providing trash receptacles to local municipalities, local parishes, um, university campuses, nonprofits, for trash receptacles to go in outdoor public spaces, so that if you want people to do the right thing, give them a way to do that. So every public park, your boat launches, all these areas where people are, enjoying the outdoors, maybe having lunch and, whatever, that they have a way that they can properly dispose of their waste so that their trash doesn't become litter. And the overwhelming response just proves that these local communities need some help. Really good, sturdy trash receptacles that will last in Louisiana heat and humidity are very expensive, and a lot of the communities, especially the smaller ones, they can only afford the low end receptacles, and after a year or two, they fall apart. And so we're really happy that we can offer assistance to Louisiana through these grants to help them, because it helps build that infrastructure that's needed for clean communities, and trash receptacles is just one small piece of that.
Okay, wow, that's amazing. That grant sounds like it's going to be really, really good and have a great benefit to the state.
Yeah. Another thing, back to your point about, littered areas, there's also connections, like on the flip side, like areas that are beautiful and well maintained attract less litter. And we know that. And so one of the other things grants that we are awarding right now is about $178,000 in beautification grants, and we got 50 applications for those. And so again, this is allowing us to give local communities money to enhance the appearance of their communities through trees, gardening, welcome signs. We all know first impressions go a long way. So if we can have a beautiful welcome area where people, that's their first impression, then we start with on a good foot. And we, like I said, we also know that beautiful spaces help to not attract litter as much.
Okay, and that kind of brings me to my next question. What can ordinary people do to help?
Well, there's a ton of things. Like I said, we all have a role and a responsibility, right? So I would say if each person took responsibility for their space, and their actions, their behaviors. And it's for some people, it might seem really simple. But even make sure on your garbage day that your trash is in a bag and tied and in the garbage can with the lid on, because there's so much litter that happens at that point when the trash truck comes and the can is emptied. If the trash is loose, oftentimes it will fall out and blow down the road. Or if the lid is not closed and it's on the curb and animals get in it. And so these are the kinds of things I'm talking about, unintentional. Like they didn't intend to litter, but because of their behavior, their action or lack of, it contributed to the litter problem. Also, loose materials flying out of the back of a garbage truck, which we've all seen, right, is less likely if the trash bags if the trash is bagged. So starts there. If you drive a pickup truck, make sure the bed of your truck is always cleaned. So, I know a lot of people will, be eating fast food or whatever, throw it in the back of the truck thinking, oh, well, when I get home, I'll take care of it. And when they get home, lo and behold, it's not there because it flew out of their back of their truck when they were going 65 miles an hour, right? So, and then when we are transporting things, whether it's in a pickup truck or if it's a commercial truck or whatever, by law, it has to be secured or covered. And so that, of course, would prevent all those larger items from flying out onto the roadways, which is a safety issue as well. So those are some easy things. Then when you're in your car, when you're in your boat, have a bag inside that you can keep your trash in, because often people will keep it in the car thinking, okay, I'm doing the right thing, I'm not throwing it out the window, right? But the unintentional act, again, you get out of your car, you open up the door and the napkin flies out. And That's the unintentional, where if you keep it in a bag, then that won't happen. Same with a boat, right? You have a can of beer or, a bottle of water, and then you take off in your boat and it flies out. So it's people really being more mindful about their behaviors and how they might contribute to the litter problem, even if they don't intend to. We all love our festivals. We love our parades, our outdoor concerts, our road races, but we also know that they generate a tremendous amount of waste and a tremendous amount of litter. So when you head out to your festival or to your parade, make sure you bring a little bag with you. It's a little effort. It's a little, it takes a little bit of planning and forethought, but it's so needed. It's so worth it. And then you can dispose of your trash when you get home. And then of course you can always do a cleanup. One of the programs we're rolling out over the next couple of months is we're partnering with local libraries, and we're providing cleanup supplies at the local libraries. And the idea here is to empower and engage everyday citizens into cleaning up their space. So just like yesterday, I gave you the example of I was driving home, noticed a lot of litter, and I wanted to do something about it. Well, I happen to have a grabber at home. Most people don't, right? But you, with your library card, could go into your local library, check out a couple of grabbers, safety vests, a trash bag, whether you're cleaning in your neighborhood or around a school or a place of business, and then return those supplies to the library. And again, this is a way that you don't have to wait for someone else to organize a cleanup, a community cleanup, or a citywide cleanup. It's saying like everybody just pitch in and help. So that could be a Girl Scout leader wanting to do an activity with her Girl Scout troop. It could be you and a friend, or some of your children. Take them and teach them the importance of keeping their streets clean and their community clean. So then basically, when you see litter, pick it up and never litter yourself. So those are, what I just mentioned, like 6 or 7 easy, simple things that people can do to not be a part of the litter problem.
Okay. Now, what if somebody wants to get involved with Keep Louisiana Beautiful? What can they do
Sure.
on that?
Yeah, we need as much help as we can. So you can go to our website at keeplouisianabeautiful.org, and there are multiple ways you can get involved. Of course, as a nonprofit organization, we need support, financial support. So it could be as simple as just making a donation at any level. You can become a member of Keep Louisiana Beautiful as well. We can help plug you in if you want to volunteer in your local community. We can try to plug you in with some of the local affiliates or some of our other nonprofit partners if you're interested in being more involved, or perhaps volunteering for a cleanup. So there are multiple ways to be involved and to do your part. And like I said, it's going to take us all working together.
And then is Keep Louisiana Beautiful, that's affiliated with Keep America Beautiful? Is that?
We're the state office of Keep America Beautiful. And like I mentioned, there's 39 affiliates in our state. And then we just certified last year 7 universities. And so we are there's only one other state that has a university affiliate program, and that's California, and they have 2 universities. We now have 7. So we can say that we're first in something in Louisiana, and we're actually onboarding 3 more universities this year. So at the end of this year, we'll have 10 of them. And so we're really excited about that program. And so we have LSU and ULL, Grambling, Xavier, Nichols, UNO, and Tulane are currently affiliates and onboarding. We have Loyola Northwestern and University of Louisiana in Monroe. And
wow.
The thing that excites us most about this is that these are our next generation of leaders, right? And often they get it more than we do, and so these are folks that will really be able to, when they're in leadership positions, put in those policies and those best practices that will bring about the permanent change and break this cycle of neglect that we find ourselves in. And so we're engaging students on campus at these higher ed institutions to do programs and projects to help keep their community and their campuses clean, but also sustainability. So many of them are housed in the Office of Sustainability. And so like they'll do waste audits and litter surveys to try to figure out, why something is, and not just, this isn't just about picking up litter, right? I mean, it's important to pick up litter, but we all know that unfortunately litter returns. So how do we permanently prevent litter? So that's been just one of the best things that we've done over the years, and it's brand new, and we're just thrilled. And so now we're able to offer them some grant money through some help with EPA, and we'll see where that goes. But we're really hopeful that we can reach the young generation, and like I said, we need to change this culture of neglect that we have.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And that program with the colleges sounds amazing.
Yeah, we're excited.
Well, I really appreciate you doing this for me. Is there anything else you'd like to add as we wrap up?
No, so we have every year we did it last year. It was the first year, but we do what's called Love the Boot Week, and this year it's running April 17th through 23rd, and which is during Earth Day week. Last year we did it, and we had for the first year we had 280 cleanup events all over the state. It was an amazing turnout. We had over 8,000 volunteers. And this year we're hoping to double that. And so I am calling all of your listeners, individuals, families, schools, business, governments, everybody, go to our website, lovetheboot.org. Mid-January it'll open, and you can either register to organize a cleanup in your community, or you can volunteer for one. And it's full of different tools and resources. The first 250 groups that organize a cleanup and register online will get a supply pack with t-shirts and garbage bags and gloves to help them with their event. We have all of our top state leaders, a lot of our legislators, a lot of our Louisiana stakeholders involved in this. And it's to engage people in taking care of their community. And we hope it plants the seed and people become more aware of how bad the problem really is. Because if you think it's bad by what you see in the car driving 45, 55 miles an hour down the road, wait till you start walking the street and you see all the little pieces of litter. 80% of all litter is 4 inches or smaller. So we don't see it when we're in the car. So that is one of the greatest and strongest pieces that we have for education and to help facilitate the change of that behavior, is to get people walking the streets, volunteering for a cleanup. They will never litter again. And hopefully they'll come back and share with others how disgusted they were and how alarming that the situation is. And that word of mouth, there's a lot of value in that. So yes, we're picking up litter, but it's also an education and awareness tool as well. And so we encourage everybody to look out for that. We have a campaign that will be starting in February and March, bringing attention to it. And we want to be able to really elevate this as the signature event, and for this to be Louisiana's time where everybody goes out and does their part to clean up their space. And if we can get people in the habit of doing it, not just that 1 week, but 365 days of the year, then I can retire.
There you go. Yeah, it sounds like an amazing event. Well, I really appreciate you doing this for us. I mean, it was a fascinating and informative conversation, and maybe we'll have you back again sometime and talk about how that event went after it's
Great.
over. Oh, yeah.
Great. Thank you, Brian.
Oh, thank you. All right.
Okay.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Well, I hope y'all enjoyed that episode. If you're not in Louisiana and you want to get involved in the anti-litter movement, you can go to Keep America Beautiful. That's KAB.org, and they can direct you to your local organization so you can help out wherever you are. And I'd like to ask you to please subscribe if you enjoyed the podcast. And you can also leave some comments if you're on YouTube, or if you'd like to leave a review if you're listening on a podcast platform. We'd appreciate it. And we will see y'all next time.